Okay, welcome to my paper weaving tutorial. Here's what we're going to be making. It is modeled after traditional weaving, so we will be making a paper warp and paper strips as the weft. Supplies you'll need for this are at least 2 pieces of paper the same size, a pencil, ruler, scissors, and glue. We're going to start by creating what's called the warp in weaving. So fold one piece of paper in half. Now on the open edge, I'm going to draw a border line that is parallel to that edge of the paper. So to show you where this is again, this is on the open edge if it was a card. So the fold is on my left here, the open is on the right, the border's on the open edge. Next, I'm going to mark and draw lines from the fold to the border near that open edge. I've been measuring all of these at 1 inch, but you can use whatever measurement you're interested in using. Just be consistent. Next, I'm going to grab my scissors, and I'm going to cut from that folded side on those lines, but I'm going to stop at that first border line that I drew there. That is my edge. I need to keep that intact. I'm not going to cut all the way through. So again, I'm cutting from the fold, and I'm stopping at the border. There we go, all done. I have all my cuts, and so when I open this up, I now have that cut all the way through my paper, and the top and bottom borders are intact. That is now my warp, my base that I will be weaving into. Now I need to make strips that will represent the weft, or like similar to the yarn that would weave in and out, over and under. So if my warp is vertical, my weft has to be horizontal. So I need strips that are horizontal on this piece of paper. So I turned my paper to make this easier for me, but I just am doing the same thing. I'm measuring. In my case, I'm keeping it to 1 inch. I'm just marking with a dot. And then I will draw lines, this time across the whole paper. I don't need to have any border. I'm just going to be cutting these into individual strips for this to make it easier. So just in the interest of time, I'll skip ahead. You're going to be cutting these on the line as best you can, boys and girls. Just cut on the line as best you can. Remember, it's better to try this on your own, and maybe it's not perfect, but you did it all by yourself. And I'm cutting all the way through so that I have a separate strip, and I did that with all of my paper. So now I have all of these strips from that one sheet of orange paper that I started with. Now, if you want, you can also do this with 2 different colored papers and have 2 different colored strips and then make a pattern. So I'm going to show you what that looks like, but you can do this with 1 color or 2. It's up to you. So here's my warp. These are my weft. And I am going to be weaving these strips, my weft, in and out of my warp. So to weave, alternate over, under, over, under, over, under, and so on. So I'm starting here, I'm going over the first vertical, under the second vertical, over the third vertical, under the fourth vertical, over the fifth vertical, under the sixth vertical, over the seventh vertical, under the eighth, and over the ninth. So it's an over, under pattern when you're weaving. So now for my next weft piece, I need to do the opposite. I need to start going under and then over. So I need to make sure it's the opposite of the strip before it. So here we go with my next strip. I'm going under the first, over the second, under the third, over the fourth, under the fifth, over the sixth, under the seventh, over the eighth, and under the ninth. And then I just slide it down to touch the first weft strip that I did. So I did over, under. Now I have to go over again on the first warp strip. So over, under, and so on. And just keep doing this pattern all the way, alternating strips. I'm also alternating colors. You can do all different colored weft strips if you want to. Be creative and have fun with it. I just alternated orange and pink and used that purple paper as my warp the entire time. Okay, all done. Now I have my almost finished weaving. I just have a few final touches. So here I have these like loose flaps on the outside edges of each weft strip. So I'm going to just take a little bit of glue, any kind of glue you have, and I'm just doing a little dot of glue under there and pushing down. And I'm going to do that on all of those end pieces on both sides of my weaving. Don't forget to flip it over and do the other side too. Once you're done, remember to twist down the top of your glue, close it tightly, clean any tips if you're using liquid glue, and make sure they are closed. Okay, now sometimes you may have a little extra paper sticking out of some of your strips. I just go in and give those a little trim, no problem, and just to even it up on all sides of my paper. So check all of your weft strips to make sure there's no overhang and trim. All done. Have fun.